Welcome to today's show. Today I have Jennifer Long of Be So Inspired with me. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hello, thank you so much for having me, Amanda. I appreciate being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Me too. I can't wait to start. Yeah, it's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, yeah. So, tell us how you got into quilting. What was your journey? And don't spare us on any details because I want to know all the things. So,
Yeah, so my name is Jennifer Long. My company is called Be So Inspired, and just a little bit about me first, maybe is I'm a mom to four, so I have four preteens and teens. My husband and I live in the prairies on an acreage, but I actually am a city girl, born and raised. But 21 years ago, got married to my husband, and we moved out to his hometown. So loving that the world is turning digital, which is enabling us to be able to like reach further, make further friends, and like just really, it's really moving the industry along, and that's super exciting about that.
Yeah,
and you have location freedom too, right? So that's really exciting. So a little bit about how I started sewing. Well, I've always been really crafty and very creative. So, and very, very artsy. So I started dancing at a very young age. I took ballet, and I actually ended up becoming a professional ballet dancer. I trained half days school, half days dance in a professional ballet company. And while I was doing that, it was like a 4-story, big, huge dance professional company building. And on the 3rd floor was the costume wardrobe. And it was this massive, beautiful room with windows all on one side, a huge workforce of seamstresses, and they were making all of the amazing costumes that you would see for a ballet, like the boning and the feathers and the tutus and all of the things, the sequins and everything. And we got to walk by there. Sometimes we got to go in there and actually try on the costumes for fittings. And it was such a transformative, magical place, because you would do all this hard work all day, and then you'd get to go in there and it would just transform who you were. And
yeah.
I remember at a very young age thinking like, wow, this is actually where all the magic happens. And my grandmother owned a fabric and a knitting shop as well. So when I go to her place, we go there for the summer, for the weekends. She would teach me actually to make doll clothes. Wow. And to knit. And so I started knitting my own leg warmers and designing my own dance costumes. She kind of helped me with that. She made wedding dresses and lots of things like that too. So I sort of learned from my mom and from her. And pretty soon people started asking me to start making stuff for them. I was still in school, like I was still dancing, but I loved sewing. And so, it sort of branched out that way. And then as I got near the end of graduation, I thought, well, what if I get injured? What will I do for a career? You start realizing that you're not invincible, and I can't maybe dance forever. And so I still hadn't really clued in that I could have, even though my grandmother was making a living in the sewing industry, I didn't really clue in that you could make a living in the sewing industry yet. Yeah. It was kind of maybe naive, or I don't know. So I went and did my early childhood education degree because I loved children, and I did it in the evenings. And so after that, I became, I ran a dance studio for 6 years, and I had 300 plus students in my dance studio, and we made costumes. So because I loved sewing so much and I had all this experience, I did formulate like a little team of seamstresses, and we got to design the costumes and sew the costumes for our recitals. And it was quite a wonderful time. And then 6 years into our marriage and into the studio, we had our first son. And when I held him in my arms, well, first of all, I thought I could have it all. And then when I held him in my arms, I realized that I just wanted to stay home. And I wanted to be able to put him to bed. And working in a dance studio, I was working every evening and on the weekends, basically opposite of my husband, which we did for the first 2 years of my son's life, because, we were able to like tag off on care and all the things. But we didn't get to be like the family that I had sort of envisioned in my head. And I got pregnant with my second child at the time, my daughter, and I decided I was going to sell my dance studio. So I sold my dance studio, but being the entrepreneur and the energetic person that I am, I loved being home. I loved my children. I loved working with my children, teaching them, but I just, wanted something that was my own too. So I started sewing for my own kids, all the things.
Yeah, right.
Quilting. I mean, I was quilting before that a little bit too, because I just love touching fabric and all the things about fabric, like color, texture, cutting it, piecing it together. So, I always quilted, but, I had purpose for quilting because I had children that had crib quilts and then, moved into beds and all the things. So I started really doing that. And my daughter especially started playing with, like dolls and lots of different toys. And I was thinking, really wanted her to have a doll that had a healthy body image.
Right.
And I also wanted her to have a soft doll. And this was, like 16 years ago when they, like rag dolls weren't really back in like they are now. And so I started sewing her and both my kids really like toys and dolls and, play mats, play quilts, all of this kind of stuff. And it was like the light bulb went off to me. It was pretty groundbreaking because I could see firsthand in my own kids that they took different care of the stuff that I made for them. So like the plastic dolls and, the trucks, we had them all, loved them all, but they got left out, they got stepped on, the pieces got lost. But the stuff that I made, even if mommy didn't make it, like even if grandma made it or somebody else, like my kids innately knew that it was like made with love. And I thought, wow, this is amazing, like this is teaching so much on so many levels, right? Like they were teaching more care and respect. And so I decided, okay, this is what I'm called to do, So it was pretty cool because I decided that, so with my, years of aesthetics from dance and, and doll making for my own kids and all my sewing experiences, I was going to put those all together. And I started training hard. I took an embroidery digitizing course. I learned the Adobe suite. I learned all the things about like designing all of, the industry standards for all of that stuff. And was able to stay home for all 4 of my kids, ghostwriting quilt patterns actually for various fabric companies and other designers. And I got some very big contracts for doll making actually with some overseas production and stuff. So I was able to stay home and I was thinking, wow, this is really amazing. I am doing what I'm so passionate about at home, like at nap time while my kids are, or like working in and around our schedule. And it was amazing. It's an awesome time that I could be there with my kids and still do something that I was so passionate about.
Yeah.
And when they all went to school, I decided I was going to give everything into this business and this career. And I was able to become a fabric designer with my top favorite fabric company, which is Riley Blake Designs. And, I have 150 patterns on my website, and it's just been an amazing journey doing sew-alongs and quilt-alongs and meeting so many amazing people along the way in the industry. So it's been, really exciting. Blogging, I love doing that too. So I hope, is that a little bit of, that's a bit how I got here. That's how I got here.
Okay, great. No, that's perfect. Cause I think like, they're like, oh, I started when I was this age and that's it. And I'm like, okay. And like, I do think like as human beings, we're just so multifaceted. And like, I want to know all of it. Cause I'm just so interested in other people and like how we all got to where we are. And so I really appreciate you sharing everything you did, because it's just so great to know that like you have such a rich background and you weren't just like, oh, I was just bored one day, so I decided to sew. Like you really like dug in and really made it a part of who you like, incorporated the things that you love into doing it. And so I love that.
It's really, really interesting, isn't it? Because there's never really a straight path, to where we want to go in life. Like, so if you're here and you want to be, let's say you want to be a fabric designer and get here, it's not this path that just goes straight. It's lots of like here and detours and, like all the things. My youngest kid had surgery, like, it's all of these things in life that, it's so cool how they kind of bring you, and then actually like you can still get there, but on that journey, it's really, really amazing. And my journey is not over. I have like other aspirations and goals too. So it's so cool how when you look forward and get to one spot, then you think, okay, so I'm so proud of myself, and you can enjoy it. But then you decide, where do I want to take this next, or what do I want to do with this now?
Right. Yeah. And it evolves and changes all the time. And I don't know if you're familiar with Brene Brown, but one of the things that I love that she says in her The Gifts of Imperfection book is that you can be a slashie. So she talks about like you don't have to pigeonhole yourself into like one thing. Like we all have different aspects of who we are as people. And so, I think I put a lot of my identity into being a teacher and I'm not doing it anymore. So when I realized it wasn't working for me, um, it was really hard for me to let go of that because I had tied so much of who I was to that. Even though I was already quilting and I was doing lots of other crafty things, and I've always been interested in having a business and all that kind of stuff, like it felt really hard to let go of that identity piece. But like I'm still teaching in different ways and, not formally or anything like that, but I have other opportunities where I can use my skills and just being a slashie. So a teacher slash quilter slash business owner slash mom slash wife slash daughter, like,
And you are teaching because that's exactly what this podcast is, right? It's inspiring, it's, teaching, it's learning. So like you still are using those skill sets, and all those skill sets can pull together and lead you to, one greater thing and who we are as individuals. It's really neat. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's so fun. That's so cool that you were a professional dancer too. Like that's such a jump of like, but at the same time, like you saying like the costumes and all that, I'm like, oh, that does make sense. Like I just remember, growing up with a mom who could sew and do all the things, and what you're saying about the kids taking care of the things that you made them. And I know for one, any blankets or quilts or Afghans or whatever, anything that family made me, I had like a special little place I would put them. And those are the ones I played with the most. And I still have a lot of them. Some, my nieces and nephew, like we set them aside and let them play with it. Cause like I didn't have girls, and my stepsons were, kind of past that age when I met them and, became their stepmom. And so, but yeah, I can attest to like it means something. You're like, oh my gosh, they made this for me. And my mom used to make outfits and stuff for me too. So I love
And,
that connection and being able to feel that and just know like, yeah, they did. Yeah, they loved your stuff.
and we all want to feel appreciated and loved, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't even like what I'm learning on this journey, this creative journey that, I have niched down to, make dolls and early years quilts. But that is not just my clientele, because what is so interesting is that, because we all have this innate like desire to feel loved and appreciated and happy, that, if I was to make you this doll and give this doll to you and say, you are my superhero, that would make you feel loved and special. And, you probably put it on your shelf in your sewing room, and you don't have to play with it like a child would, but it brings a different level of joy and, whimsy and everything else. And so that's a part that's been unveiled that I didn't realize at first was going to be, that you were going to reach all those other populations that you didn't know you were going to reach. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, people want to do everything at first. And I know I was like having trouble, like, what are we going to offer? Like, what's our thing going to be? And trying to figure that out. Cause it's like, well, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. And I'm like, ugh, I'm just, with me and my mom, it's just the two of us running our business. So like, how many hours in the day do we actually have, and how much brain power? And, we're like, maybe we should just like not do that anymore. Like pretend that never existed, or, just niching in. But then it's also crazy how quickly your people will find you too. Once you niche in and you get to the heart of what your heart is, how quickly people are like, I'm with you, I'm yours, you've got me, and I think for you, you're touching people's inner child, and that is huge to me. Like I'm a huge advocate of like loving your inner child and letting that inner child explore and have fun even as an adult. Like I tap into my inner child all the time. I'm like, all right, baby, we're going on an inner child date and we'll watch a Disney movie. And it probably seems crazy, but
it just seems like, if you start, we all start loving all of the things. I mean, no, let me correct that. I love all of the things, like beyond my studio doors, I have a really pretty farmhouse that doesn't have, like a bazillion colors in it. It has a fireplace and it has farmhouse quilts, and I make them. I even design them and all the things. But you quickly realize that, like you said, you don't have enough hours in the day, number one, to do all of the things. And what it really starts to feel like home when you start to lean into, I guess, all of your experiences and all of your callings, because we can't be everything to everybody.
No.
But, I hope that, I can be a small thing to lots of people, so that if they have a grandchild, or if they have someone that needs a little pick me up in the hospital, or if they have that, they might think, oh, Jennifer Longby's so inspired, I'm going to go look there and see what she has that can bring, a bit of sunshine today. And so it's really, it's scary to niche down at first, because you feel like you're saying no to other things. But if you don't say no to some things, then you're just saying yes to so many things, and you can't really get focused. So,
right.
And I should say every quarter, 4 times a year, I take a look at what I'm doing and I go, okay, I'm getting distracted over here. And, oh, shiny object over here. It happens all the time. Like, so I try to like plan my quarter and like keep myself focused, because as artists, we get distracted really easy. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's so many fun things to do and so many fun and different ways to like have those creative outlets. But then it's like, oh, right, I'm a business too. Like, I'm not just a crafter, I'm not just a maker. Like, I'm also a business owner and responsible to my clients and responsible to myself as a business, as a brand. And like, I mean, not that we're a huge business or anything, but like, that has to take some risk or some importance and like priority in the level of like, okay, am I going to go off on this tangent, or am I going to stay here and kind of focus on this path?
And
so,
even to your listeners that are makers, so I'm not sure your audience, if lots of them are makers themselves, or just lovers of crafts, or where they are on their business journeys, or if they're just making for fun. But if they are making to sell, even niching down on their product line will like help their audience know what they want, their customers to come back. It'll just help with their marketing. It'll help with their branding and all of that side of it too. So it really is, it could be scary. And there's nobody saying that you can't ever pivot, right? Like, especially you can totally pivot whenever you want.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's that piece of like being true to yourself, knowing who you are, knowing where you came from, and understanding like where you want to go. And I think that can be hard for people too, just like knowing where they're at and where they want to go, and like how is hard for people, because you can come up with a why and you can come up with a what, but the how is like, especially if you're not like
looking too far in ahead can be overwhelming too, and it can almost freeze you. I mean, even where we all are, right? It can freeze us where we are. And so like, yes, having that huge goal and even speaking it out loud is amazing. But, just seeing the steps that you need to do to get there, right? And breaking it into little chunks, like looking at the huge grocery list for Christmas dinner is so overwhelming. But if you're like, okay, I'm on the fruits and vegetable aisles, what fruits and vegetables do I need? You can just break it down a lot easier. And that's just how, that's how I look at my business and my creative journey. Yeah.
It's like, what can you do now that's going to help you, eventually help you down the road, but like, what can you do now that will help you get there? And I think that's ultimately, like, you got to inch your way in sometimes, and that's okay. And sometimes, you just make and you're never a business, and that's perfect too. It's like, not everybody has to make money from their hobbies. And I think that's like one of mine and my husband's like arguments, if you want to call it an argument, but because we don't really fight, but he loves to like think of business ideas, and every hobby I've ever had, he's like, you should. I'm like, don't tell me to sell it. But unfortunately, I gave in with quilts because my mom and I wanted a long arm so bad. Because once we learned, we were like, oh, we want to keep doing this forever. Because it's like, we love making quilts, but long arming it and giving it a personality and bringing it to life is like, there's nothing like it. It's so fun.
And long arming is like, it's like putting the icing on the cake. So, you can have
Yeah.
your quilt pieced, but when you get beautiful long arming and it just sort of, it hides any imperfections.
Hmm.
It gives it the texture. It sort of gives it right away this warmth, and it just really finishes it. And it's so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just sort of like, putting the gravy on that turkey. I'm talking about a lot of
Yeah.
food today. Yes.
I know. It's fine. I love food, so I'm here for it.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Oh,
well,
it's
so when you like are feeling kind of overwhelmed, or like, do you have like a comfort craft that you kind of lean into when you're feeling like maybe things are going awry or you're not quite sure what your next steps are? Is there something that you kind of lean more into to get yourself more centered and focused?
That is a super interesting question. I love it, actually. That's a really interesting question because we can't forget why we, came into this industry. And so much of this job, like I got into this industry because I love sewing, but so much of this job actually isn't behind the sewing machine anymore, right? So
Hmm.
much of it is like behind the computer screen,
Hmm.
or photographing or like blogging, things like that, right? So when I do get the time to be behind the sewing machine, and I try to make time, multiple times every week to do that, it's really the repetitiveness of like chain piecing something that
Hmm.
can really, it's just so soothing and relaxing.
Hmm.
So, if I'm going to make, I always say, if I'm going to make one block, I might as well make 30 because, it's going to be good for the soul. And,
Hmm.
I get to work with more fabric and
Yeah.
all the things like it just is so I would say definitely like my therapy would be
Hmm.
chain piecing, or like
Hmm.
repetitive sewing like that.
Hmm.
For sure, 100%.
Yeah.
Or, which I never get time. Sorry, you're asking
Yeah.
the question. So,
No, this is good.
and or cross stitch actually, which
Okay.
I don't have in my business at all. But I
Yeah.
started cross stitching when I was really young, and cross stitch is really therapeutic because you can do it anywhere.
Hmm.
And it's the same thing, very repetitive, right? Like you're just making little
Hmm.
X's everywhere. Yeah, same
Yeah.
stitch over and over, different colors. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh
that's
man,
my
I haven't thought about cross stitching in so long. My mom used to cross stitch all the time when I was younger, and taught me how. And so we do have them somewhere, some cross stitch pieces, but I've never gotten back into it. But crochet is my comfort thing because it's
Ooh,
same thing,
yes.
repetitive. You're just making those little chains and you're just going along. And I think it's like I don't know if it's like fall nesting kind of, but as soon as the weather starts to turn, I'm like, I need to make every hat and scarf that pops in my head, and I'll buy skeins of yarn and I'll whip stuff up, and then I'm like, okay, I'm good. And then I move along. But
I know.
that's chain piecing. Yeah, you're just feeding it through. You're like, all right, let's go. And
It's so wonderful. And to see, and like, I really love productivity, I mean, like just
Mhm.
like the next person. And so chain piecing, you sort of like tick all the boxes, right? Because you're
Right.
being highly productive,
Hmm.
you're working with all the fabric and yeah. So, and it's very relaxing. So, and actually that's
Yeah.
been a lot of my, thinking and ideas for either fabric collections come
Hmm.
or new patterns or thinking about next quarter stuff. We have a membership on our site as well, and it's like a pattern membership. So kind of combined all of the worlds together. So we have like a quilt block a month and a doll pattern a month, and then usually like a stuffy and then a craft. So they get something every week. It's, really,
Oh,
really,
wow.
really economical. It's less than one pattern cost a month. It's really an amazing. We had two memberships. We had a quilting membership and a doll membership, and we this summer pulled them together for a
Okay.
cheaper price to like actually just share the value, because we were doing the work for both and we thought everybody might as well enjoy it all, and it's been amazing. So
Oh.
yeah, it's been really fun to just like think about what's coming next quarter, and for all of these different pulling those all together, and people that were quilters that hadn't tried dolls before are trying
Hmm.
them, and people that are doll makers that hadn't tried quilting before are trying them, or crafts. So
Yeah.
it's really awesome, and it's what we're trying to do in this whole industry, right, is like lift each other up. So
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's so fun. I love that. And yeah, it encourages people like you're going to get the patterns anyway. You might as well try them if you want to,
yeah,
because it's
yeah,
not like you have to go out of your way to get it. That's so
right.
smart.
But we made it so that, yeah, thanks. Thank you. Yeah, it was sort of a brainchild over the last few years, actually, and trial and error with these other memberships. But I love it because even if they only wanted the doll pattern, it's still cheaper than just buying the doll pattern. It's
Right.
$9.95 for the month, right? So it's cheaper than even buying a doll pattern. So even if they just use the one pattern a month, that they're getting their whole value, but then they're getting all these extra things. And so it kind of is inspiring. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. I might have to join.
Yeah.
My husband will be like, "What is this?" He
Dolls,
really
I know,
doesn't
yes.
care. Yeah, he honestly wouldn't care. He'd be like, "What are you making now?"
I know.
That's
Yes.
so fun. Opening up possibilities and like access to things is like one of the parts of doing what I'm doing that I'm so passionate about, is like not gatekeeping this industry, because I think there tends to be this like preconceived notion that if you're a quilter, you're a stuffy, grumpy old person. And I mean, that's literally why I started this podcast, to prove to people it's not true. Like, we're so giving, we're so loving. Everything we do is because we're just excited about the beauty that can come out of this stuff, and like generosity abounds. And I mean, why
so
not
much
encourage?
grace and so much grace. I have
Yeah.
found that, like, there are times I need people's grace, and I'm always the first to give people grace when they need it too, because I think that's what helps us with our customer service, because customer service can be tricky sometimes. And if you're always always thinking the highest of your customer, always thinking, if I was in that position, or giving them grace, how do I need, because maybe they don't deserve grace right now, but maybe I don't deserve it tomorrow, and I still want it tomorrow. So it's how I want to live my life. It's how I teach my children to live their lives. And, and the cool thing is, I feel like the more, like, I just use that word all the time, the more grace you give, actually, it might not come back from that person, but the more it comes back to you, like, in the world.
Yep.
And it's
Exactly.
amazing.
Yeah, that's something my husband and I talk about all the time. It's just like the whole purpose of being people, I think, at least in our perspective. And everybody has their own perspective, but in our perspective, like, our goal in our lives here on this planet, in this existence, if we have other lifetimes, cool. If not, whatever, at least we can say that we tried. But like, giving compassion and grace to people, especially when they don't deserve it, because if we're not going to do it, like, who else is going to do it for that person? And we would hope that we'd be offered the same, and maybe not in the same circumstance with that same person, but eventually down the road. And I think you're right. The more you come with that perspective of like, I'm going to give this person the benefit of the doubt, I'm going to assume that nothing, actually, like, don't assume anything, just look at the concrete situation, look at the facts,
and
and then
sometimes
don't.
people just want to be heard. Like, we were talking about that before, right? We just want to be heard. We just want to be known that we're appreciated. We just want to be, like, we all have that feeling. We all want that. And so, and I want it too. Like, I want to feel loved and heard as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, if you can extend up to somebody else, then it's like, it just opens it up for that to be extended to you as well. So I love that, because it's huge too, especially when you're in this space of everybody's creative visions are, different. You might have similar things in mind or similar tastes, but everybody's vision is slightly different. And so just being able to put yours on pause to hear someone else's, and then take that information in, I was like, okay, where does this fit in my map of reality? It can really shift things for you as a person.
So I love it. I love that. And Amanda, this is like the perfect segue, if I may.
Yeah, please do.
Into like a fabric collection of mine that's coming out. Actually came out in August, so it's already shipping to stores. And it's called Be a Superhero. And if you're watching on the Amanda's, what's your YouTube channel called?
Not Your Granny's Quilt Show.
It's called Not Your Granny's Quilt Show. So if you're watching on her YouTube channel, you'll be able to see some of the panels and things, but there's also quilt patterns and all of the things there. And I just love this segue into it, actually, which we did not plan, listeners. We did not plan this segue, but I just thought I'm going to capitalize on this.
Yeah, please.
Because be a superhero is actually about just that. It's about like lifting people up. And we've started a hashtag. It's called Superhero Movement. And it's about like thinking about others before ourselves. So like every ordinary person can be a superhero. Like, the child that's going to school, that's, standing up to bullies all of the time, or, somebody that's helping clean up, your neighbor's dog's business, or, going to a teacher that's maybe been sick and helping them, or the grocery store worker, or there's just so many instances, visiting someone in a personal care home or going through hospital treatments, all of these things, like everybody can be a superhero. And we kind of talked about this at the beginning about the realization of, dolls and beautiful gifts cannot just be for kids. And so, that is our hope. And I know there's guilds making these already. I know that there's groups making them for hampers, for Christmas hampers and things like that too. And just even if you wanted to make one for your own somebody that's special in your family, but also just making them to give, and then use that hashtag superhero movement. The purpose of this collection is actually to lift each other up. So it's so beautiful. I'll just plug that we're having a free sew along for them in October on the website and the YouTube channel, the Be So Inspired YouTube channel. So if you go over to besoinspired.com and you just go under fabric collections and you click on the Be a Superhero one, you'll get all the things. You can sign up for the free PDF downloads to make them, and you can sign up for the free sew along, and it's going to be lots of fun. So we're just talking about what we can do to help others, and this is just something that is so dear and close to my heart. Lots of personal reasons for this too, but lifting up other people is just is really the basis of my whole creative journey.
Yeah, that's amazing. Your dolls are so cute. I did see your horse dolls on your Instagram. They're so cute. I was like, oh my gosh, I would have loved those as a kid. But yeah, that's amazing. So superheroes are so cute, and I love that concept.
The exciting thing about these panels is that I'm a professional doll designer. So like I've said, I've designed for a lot of big companies before that are manufacturing overseas already. Probably they might even have one of the dolls in, if it's a rag doll, you could maybe even have it. So I have the understanding about, taking a 2D image and making it 3D, which does take some, learning processes and skills. And then also I'm going to walk you through in this so long and give you all the tips and tricks on how to make it easy. So this is just 2 pieces of fabric slapped together, cut out and slapped together. That's all it is, but it turns into this amazing, doll. And there's really very beginners could sew this really with, walking through together. And that's the whole passion, is that we want to make this as accessible as we can for people too. And, some guilds are making many of them, so they want them to be as accessible as they can too. So it's really exciting. Yeah.
That is so cool. Oh, I love that. Yeah. I can't wait to see. I'll follow the hashtag too, to see I want to see what people make and how they're being, distributed and what people are doing with them. Cause that is so cool. And I think too, even if they're not going to little kids, just like we were talking about, if they're going to someone who's been a superhero in your life, or, just somebody who needs the encouragement, I just think that's such a cute and fun way to reach them. And I think one of the things that I've really just I guess leaned into as I've been, progressing on my personal journey and just understanding who I am and how to be a better person, really leaning into comfort things, not necessarily, they're not always things, but just leaning into finding comfort for myself has been really huge. And so I think even just something like that for someone could be such a huge comfort that you may not know by giving it to them, but it could just lead to them being even further happier and feeling cared for. And I think that's so big.
If dolls are not your thing, then the collection has a whole bunch of quilt patterns too. And
Oh my gosh.
so fun because they use, some of them use the doll panel. So now I'm going to make your listeners come to your YouTube channel if they want to see.
You better come over here because
it uses the doll panels like applique on the raw edge applique. So it actually, this one's called comic book. So they can actually, it's like a page from a comic book, right? And they can be a superhero applique. And there's lots of different fun quilts. I've kind of been known for BA quilts. I don't know if you've sort of seen those online, but it's my early childhood education background, and it's quilt patterns that, you know, are also, they can actually become the quilt pattern. So yes, they can actually become my gosh. So it's a whole bunch in the series there too. So it's really, really fun. Yes.
That is so cool. I'm like so giddy right now. Like that is the coolest. So yeah. Oh, so you could be the superhero and then flip it around and wear it as your cape, which little kids use blankets as capes all the time. So why not make them one that's specifically for that? I'm so excited right now. That's amazing.
I know, because we just talked about quilting, how much we love it, and you can long arm these, and yes, send them over to Amanda. She'll long arm them.
Send them our way. We'll long arm them for you. Oh man, that's so cute. Well, okay, so and then did you say you have another line coming out soon?
Yeah, I actually have two collections like 2 months apart coming out. So I have a full collection coming out. Is actually usually there are 3 colorways, but this has 4 colorways. So it's almost like 2 mini collections in one, and it's called Forest Friends. So there is, it's about a fox family, and the fox family goes on like a woodland adventure, right? They go camping, they have s'mores. So there's a woodland fox, which is, you know, these like orange foxes, and they have these little argyle sweaters that are all cotton. This is one of the prints in the fabric too. And then there's an Arctic fox. I have them up there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So they are really fun. So there's the doll panels, but we also have a 3D tent that you can make. Yeah, it's really fun.
Oh my gosh.
So fun. A 3D tent with a doll sleeping bag and all this stuff. And then there's actually a kid's fox sleeping bag where they actually sleep inside the fox. Plus, you know, a full range of all of the fabrics in there too. So
oh my gosh. That's beautiful.
So it's you know, we got a sew along. There's a box kit that's coming in there called Sweater Season. So if you're not into foxes, there is a quilt pattern that's just about like mittens and scarves and all the knitting that you said. I almost feel like I need to pull it out now. And
you're like, oh, let me use.
Yeah, so you know, it uses this great print in here, this knitted print, and it accents it. So we'll be doing lots of things on the website and the YouTube channel for the next few months, leading us like actually even into the new year. We'll be doing sew alongs for that collection as well.
How fun!
And then you'll have to watch spring or fall market, Riley market. You'll have to watch.
Okay,
see what's coming new. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh, how fun.
Yes. It is fun.
I'm just like blown away. I'm like, okay, oh my gosh, I might need to start making dolls now.
Yeah, it's really good.
Oh my gosh. That's so fun. Yeah, everybody go check it out. Come to the YouTube video so you can see it because you're going to also want to buy it.
So, okay, I'll just show this while we're here. So we're really telling them to come here. So this is the knitted, sweater season 1, and then there's a bench pillow like this. And I did tell you that I was a machine embroidery digitizer. That's sort of how I got my start into doll making, so I can make dolls completely in the hoop. So if people are into machine embroidery, like things like this, they can do. There's a sewing version, but there's also a machine embroidery version. And the fun thing about machine embroidery is you know, if you're having arthritis in your hands and you can't do all the hand embroidery that, you know, we just talked about that we love so much and it's so relaxing, it is another avenue for people to still, you know, make the things and be creative and crafting. Or even if you just want like the speed of it too, because it is a lot faster. So if you are doing, if you're doing, you know, like not mass production, but if you know, you want to make a lot of Christmas gifts or, you know, you're selling a lot of things, it does definitely speed things up too. So.
For sure. Yeah. We have actually both of our Berninas are also embroidery. So we haven't learned very, very much of it. We've just done like simple, just like words and stuff. But I'm like, you know, I've seen it because at our local quilt shop that we use a lot, they also they are a Bernina dealer. So they have like tons of embroidery out as like models and lots of floor models. So you could see the different patterns and things. And I'm just like, gosh, they're so stinking cute. And it's like, yeah, like such a quick way to like let your machine do the work, but also you end up putting it together. So it's not like you didn't make it, but
Oh
it's
yeah,
just beautiful.
there's still there's still lots of like techniques involved, and you know, you get to work with fabric. You know, I also like love long arming too. I don't do it for anybody, but the reason why I love it too is because you get the chance to work with the fabrics again, right? And this is why we love this industry, and why we love crafting, is because we love working with the fabrics. So no matter how you're working with them, if you're chain piecing them, or if you're using the machine embroidery, if you're, you know, gluing them onto paper, like you're still working with the fabrics, right? And that's what we have, all this common goal of what we love working with.
Right. Yeah. It's that textile art and that fabric, you know, just the use of fabric. And I love just seeing all the different things that people come up with and the way they mix different, you know, I don't know what to call it, mediums, or, you know, they're different skills and different, you know, ways.
Right. Like, would you rather go to a clothing store or a fabric store? Fabric store, hand down, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
No question.
I don't need new clothes. The ones I have fit, they're fine. Like, I'll just go buy more fabric.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Then I don't have to leave my house, and then I can just stay home and sew the new fabric. So
exactly. Yeah.
Good.
You get me. This is good. Oh man.
Very good.
Well, like besides the two fabric lines, which not to say that that's like not enough, but do you have anything else coming up? Any other projects or things that you're kind of looking towards once these are kind of wrapped up? Or
yeah, so like I said, I like to plan in quarters. So I've already I've got like Q4, which is coming up. So the end of this year is completely planned. There's like some amazing tutorials and projects, really some cute wintry things coming. Easy that you can even just do on a Saturday, like, we're really right now into like, sewing up some little fruits and vegetables. So there's some cute stuff coming up that way inside the Makers Club, but also just on the website. And then in the new year, I've got this sweater season sew along coming up, but also I want to take part in the Riley Blake block challenge. I did that last year again. I was a designer for one of the blocks. So that is a free sew along that a different designer releases a block every week. And so, yeah, I'll be doing that for sure with them. It's so fun. Just, good chance to like get exposure to lots of different designers. And yeah, so, and then it's like, it just feels like there's like holiday after holiday after holiday to sew for. We got to sew for all the holidays.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I know. I'm like, when am I going to start my Christmas quilt? Because that's going to be here before I know it. And
yes.
It's like, but I'm making all these other things for everybody else. So, which is fine. It's fine. I think
we need more time between fall and winter, because I want to do all the fall things. I want to sew all the fall things. And then after you sew all the fall things, you're like, whoa, it's winter. I know. I wanted to make new stockings and a tree skirt and, all the stuff. And yes. Yeah.
Like I always joke, like, okay, you got to start your fall sewing in February, and you have to start your Christmas sewing in July. And so you're not sewing during this actual season. Right. You're just bringing all the stuff you already made out to display. Because if you're making it during that season, it's not going to get done. And by the time you get to it, it's going to already be February again. And so,
And how many Christmas Eves, how many of your listeners here, put in the comments, how many listeners here have sewn on Christmas Eve or presents? I will put my hand up, more years than one.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yes, for sure.
I guess, well, I wasn't sewing the presents, but I like to make gift bags for gifts. Like my mom started it, and I was like, I'm going to do that too. And so we'll just find like clearance yardage and turn it into gift bags, different sizes. And I had gotten my nieces and nephews those big squashmallow things, those like huge poofy, like stuffed animals. I got them each one. And I was like, where am I going to find a bag to squish these suckers into? So she was like, just sew fabric. I was like, oh, duh. So I went to the fabric store, found some just green and white striped fabric that was like $4 a yard. And I was like, thank you. And I brought it back and I sewed it. And I was like, it's Christmas Eve, shoving them in the bag. Like, oh, right.
Oh
So,
my
I
goodness.
mean, I guess I've done that, but
Because
yeah.
there was a time, I know we're wrapping up here, but there was a time before I was in the designing, when my kids were still little, I was sewing dolls at markets and stuff like that. And Christmas is also your busy time. And I would do a lot of custom orders, which I do not do anymore, but a lot of custom orders for dolls. And then, you know, you would get people asking on even December 20th, can you please just, make, and especially when they were like close, like I got smarter as the years went on and started making, boundaries, but, it's hard to turn down, because sometimes the rest of the year is dry. So that's a big time of year for makers, is before Christmas. So then, it's December 22nd and you're like, well, I wanted to sew for my own children too.
Right.
So that's why I would be sewing pajamas and all the things really late on Christmas Eve.
Yeah. Well, and that's where the no that you have to say sometimes becomes really important, because you have your own family to also impart those things on, and you want to make sure that they have a good holiday as well. And if you're making stuff for everybody else but not taking the time to make the things that you want to make for them, it's like you're neglecting the most important part of your life, which is your family, right?
It's like full circle, right? Like coming back to like, making our goal, setting our boundaries so that we can, achieve our goals, and then also thinking about like how we can, be the best that we can be too, right? Because if we're completely exhausted for Christmas morning, then it's, it loses it as well too. So, and also communicating those boundaries, I should say, to others, because how do they know that you can't sew a doll on December 22nd if you haven't communicated that, right? You can be like, orders are closing on November 30th out there.
Exactly.
Right? Yes.
And I think that's it. It's like, it can be hard because you're like, oh, I'm going to turn people away, or I'm going to hurt their feelings. But really, I think if you just communicate clearly and you just say, this is how things are, and most people, 99% of people, will respect that and respect you for being able to set a boundary and just say, I need time to do my best work for you, but also so I can be present for my family and for the things I need to be present for. And so I'm with you. Like, boundaries are a really hard thing to learn how to set, but once you do set them and you do it, lovingly, and you're just clear and concise, I think that communication, like you said, is the biggest part of running a business, and so people know what to expect from you, and then they're not having to guess, and then you don't end up with crazy emails on December 24th going, where's my
and
boundaries
doll? Boundaries make us all feel safe to some degree too. You know what I mean? Like my years as early childhood education, you need to put some boundaries on kids, obviously not so restrictive. You want them to explore, but they do test those boundaries because they want to see if those boundaries are boundaries, and then they can feel safe and secure in this like security circle. And so it's sort of the same thing too, you can put these boundaries there. It doesn't mean that customers won't ask, because they still will ask, and you just give them grace and say, I know that you would really love a doll, but I have this hard deadline of November 30th. What I can do for you is I have these dolls in stock, so you can't get a custom order anymore, but I have these. And then next year you'll know to order before.
Yep, exactly. Like, I can't do that, but here's what I can do, and here's what we can do in the future. It's just that, like, yep. And I think, as a teacher as well, like, I taught third grade for 8 years. So I just have to remember, like, oh, right, I know how to set boundaries. I think when it's hard to remember, like, just, you can do it with kids and adults.
And ourselves. Oh my goodness, how many shiny objects, right? I need them. Like, somebody set boundaries for me, please. The boundary when I walk into this fabric store is, and I tell it to myself, otherwise out there with all kinds of whim purchases that, I just went in there for elastic. I have like 2 bags on the way out. It's
Oops. I did set a hard boundary for myself. For the rest of this year, I'm not buying any new fabric. I have so much, and it's ridiculous. And I have like 4 quilts like queued up. I have everything I need for them. I just have to make them. And if I buy more fabric, it will just be so overwhelming. And I already have so much, like, besides those 4 quilts, tucked away, that I'm just like,
Right.
you know what, self, you're just really shooting yourself in the foot here. So I don't know. But yeah, you have to. It's because there are so many new things that come out all the time, and there's so many great fabric lines, and there's so many great designers, and there's so many amazing quilt patterns. It's like, okay, okay.
Yeah. And you just have to plan, and it doesn't
Hmm.
have to be all or nothing. It can be like,
Right.
if I can get one of these 4 quilts done, then I
Hmm.
can buy enough fabric for another quilt. I'll give
Sure.
myself that, you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
whatever. You're not saying you have to do that, but I'm just saying,
Right.
like,
Exactly.
it doesn't have to be this, like, setting boundaries don't
Hmm.
have to be this all or nothing kind of
Yeah.
a deal. Yeah.
For sure. And yeah, it 1,000% depends on you and your situation, and
Oh, yes.
what is manageable for you. What's manageable for me is to not bring any new fabric into my stash, because oh my God, it's a lot. And I feel bad because I keep all of it here at my parents' house, because I don't have enough space to keep it where I could keep it in my house. And so that just tells you it's too much. So it's okay. Like, I'm very excited to make the quilts that I have the fabric for, and they're beautiful. Some of it I've been hanging on to for a long time, and it's like older Tula pink, and I even forgot I had it, and then I found it when I was cleaning out a closet in my house, and I was like, oh, okay, I should probably sew with this.
And you know what feels really good about all of this too? We'll circle back to this, like,
Hmm.
giving again too, is, yeah, like, I found quilts that have been, like, partially made, or just
Hmm.
haven't been long armed, or kits or things like that, that I just probably know I won't get a chance to do
Hmm.
again, and paying it forward, like giving it to
Yeah.
somebody that maybe is just getting into quilting.
Yeah.
It's sort of like this whole, here, thank you for, being amazing. It's just that sort of touch, and that, like,
Yeah.
pay it forward, giving something good. And so it's not doing me any good to sit here for another 30 years. So,
Yeah.
being able to give it forward, or, giving
Mhm.
it to guilds, because lots of time guilds will sew up these quilts and use them to
Yep.
donate as well, which is
Yeah.
amazing. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. So there's lots of different resources and ways you can pass those things along. So I think that's, like, I know we've kind of started going through, because my mom has like 10 times as much as I do, but she kind of goes through and she's like, you know what, I'm not going to use this. I don't need it. So we do kind of put some fabric up on our Etsy shop, as far as like just cuts that we've had for a long time, or just stuff that we're not going to use and we've just had it. So it's great fabric. It's just not something that we want to use anymore. And so we're like, oh, we'll just give someone else an opportunity to have it. But then we also, if it's like more scrappy kind of cuts and stuff, then we'll donate it to our guild that we're in, to do the quilts for kids, or what are the special projects that we do. So yeah.
Wonderful. That's so good. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's why we all quilt, right? So I
Hmm.
just love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Wonderful.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, well, thank you so much for talking to me today. I just feel like rejuvenated and so excited to get sewing right now. So I just really appreciate the conversation, and thank you for sharing your journey and all your fun stuff that you have coming up. And so I know we've mentioned it before, but let's just remind our listeners where they can find you online.
Sure. Thank you so much, Amanda, for having me here. I really, really appreciate it too.
Yeah.
So yes, my name is Jennifer Long. My company is called Be So Inspired, and it's be like a bumblebee, because I really love gardening, like fruits and vegetable gardening. So be so, as in we all love to sew. So besoinspired.com. And you can find all the things there. I'm on all the social handles with that hashtag or that link as well. Be So Inspired, spelled with BEE. But definitely, if you come over to the website, that's where like all of the links are happening, all the activity. And if you grab the free newsletter, then you'll be in the know for all of the goodies that come your way.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll link all that below, and so people can find you easily. And if you are listening, come to the YouTube video so you can see what she showed us, because you'll be inspired too. So
Thank you so much for having me today.
thank you.